All right. Remember, no more killing soldiers. No more killing us.
I got it. No kills, no being spotted.
See any way out, Sophia? No, not yet.
You ruin everything!
No, you won't stop us. Not now. You're making a mistake. Keep calm. Keep steady. It's going to end badly, Alicia. There has to be a way out.
Never seen you do that. I don't like it, but I always end up having to do it.
And I'll kill you again if I have to! I'll kill all of you!
Amicia.
Back in April, I covered A Plague Tale: Innocence and skewered the game. I thought it was pretentious in its concept and rudimentary in its stealth. I was more than willing to pick up its sequel and have another game to laugh at in the most mean-spirited way possible. And I did that for like 70% of my time with A Plague Tale: Requiem. But then, something happened. Something changed. And once the credits finished rolling, I had to confront something that I was afraid to admit. A Plague Tale: Requiem is kino. How did this happen? How could my opinion of the sequel be the complete opposite of my opinion of the previous title? Well, it wasn't easy. A Plague Tale: Requiem is a 2022 sequel to the 2016 title A Plague Tale: Innocence, both developed by Asobo Studio. You continue playing as Amicia Darune, a teenage girl with not-so-teenage problems. Her dad was murdered, her mother was captured, and her brother was the unwilling vessel to a rat plague that manifests once every couple hundred years. Amicia had to fight tooth and nail to protect her brother Hugo and their friends, as well as rescue their mother. Innocence ended with Amicia's family riding off into the sunset. Requiem picks up the story 6 months after Innocence. Amicia and crew settle down in a new city to get professional treatment for Hugo. That's as far as I'll go with the plot, as Requiem's campaign goes in really unexpected ways that I don't want to spoil. A Plague Tale's gameplay can be broken up into 3 sections: exploration, stealth, and combat. Most of the time, you're walking around the world with Amicia and observing or interacting with objects to progress. Sometimes that means solving puzzles. Sometimes that means being in the moment and enjoying the sights and sounds with your friends. When you're not exploring, you're sneaking. Enemies operate on line of sight, but they can also hear the sounds you make while moving. If you're not crouch walking, you'll spook the enemy. If you aim your weapon at an enemy while they're looking at you, you'll spook them. If you kill an enemy within another enemy's earshot, you'll spook them. Enemies have 4 awareness states: neutral, suspicious, cautious, and alert. Neutral enemies will follow a set patrol path uninterrupted. Suspicious enemies will stand in place and wait for visual confirmation. Cautious enemies will move towards a spot that caught their attention. Alert enemies are aware of your position and in hot pursuit. If an enemy is walking directly towards you, you have a split-second chance to distract them and then move to the nearest hiding spot. When you confront an alert enemy, you'll go into combat. Unlike Innocence, you have a lot of options at your disposal to deal with enemies. If an enemy knocks you down, you can still get up and counter them. This will stun the enemy, and you can kill them, but it's a long animation that makes a lot of noise. In Innocence, you readied your sling to shoot ammo by holding down L2, and you readied ammo to be thrown by holding down L1. You fired or threw your ammo by pressing R2. Holding R1 opened up the weapon wheel, where you crafted ammo for your sling, as well as selected throwables. I always thought that Innocence's shoot and throw actions were clunky and confusing. I guess Asobo felt the same way, as Requiem revamped the weapon wheel's interface. Holding down R1 still opens a weapon wheel, but now you can switch ammo types by pressing left or right on the D-pad, and you switch the methods of delivery by moving the right stick. Just like in Innocence, you can use your sling to shoot ammo or throw ammo by hand. Thrown items won't cover the same distance as a sling, but they won't give away your position. Unlike Innocence, Amicia now carries an infinite supply of rocks in Requiem. Requiem adds 2 new methods of delivery: pots and crossbows. You can place ammo in pots and turn them into grenades of sorts. They cover a wider area of effect than hitting the target with your sling or by hand. The crossbow is a deadly weapon in its own right, but it doesn't outright replace a sling. It's slow to reload, and bolts are scarce for most of the game. Depending on your playstyle, you'll use a crossbow more for puzzle solving than for combat. You can combine your alchemical concoctions with your bolts so they'll stick on the wooden boards. It's mostly useful to stick a flame on a board as a makeshift torch, but there are a couple of puzzles that take advantage of the bolt combinations. Some obstacles require you to place a grappling hook with a rope on the crossbow and pull the rope to progress.
They left a knife. It's stuck. Come on. Well, let's keep going. Through there.
You don't use blades against people.
I did. I had no choice. A blade is silent and quick. It's what we need now.
All right. It's up to you.
The knife is a new addition to Amicia's arsenal. Killing an enemy with a knife is quick and doesn't make any noise, but knives are single use only. Character progression occurs in two ways: skills and gear. As you go through the campaign, the game keeps track of your playstyle. There are 3 branches of skills: Provence, Aggressive, and Opportunist. Provence is effectively playing the game like a ghost. Get by sneaking arenas without causing alerts or kills. Aggressive means using your weapons to get kills. Beat enough guys in the head with a sling, or stick enough guys with the crossbow bolts to progress down this path. Opportunist means using alchemical concoctions to take care of enemies. Set a guy on fire? Opportunist.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Smells like victory.
When you reach certain milestones on a skill path, you gain perks that make it easier for you to continue down that playstyle. I get what Asoba was going for, but I'm not that fond of this type of progression, as it restricts how I want to play the game if I want certain perks. I can't just pick whichever perks if I want to experiment. I kept progressing an Opportunist because I kept crafting items to set enemies on fire. If I wanted to be able to move faster while crouching, I had to show some restraint in certain encounters until I got that perk. It's also weird because there'll be set pieces that restrict my ability to play a certain way, but the game still rewards me with perks from another skill path. There's an encounter in the game where you're injured and a person is on your tail. You have to sneak around them to open a door. Because I couldn't fight that character during that set piece, the game rewarded me with Ghost XP, but it's not like I had a choice in the matter. Also, the final perk in the Ghost skills is the ability to stab fully armored enemies with a knife. I feel like the reward for the playstyle contradicts actually adhering to the playstyle. Maybe Asobo felt like the player suffered enough, and letting them kill knights with knives was a proper reward, but I got mixed signals over that. Gear progression isn't as limited. You upgrade your gear at workbenches, so long as you have enough materials and upgrade tools. You actually have control in what gear you want to upgrade. Some workbenches are locked and you need to waste a knife to open them up. Even if you don't have enough items to upgrade your gear, opening up workbenches is still worth it, because they can also provide extra materials and upgrade tools. I like that knives can be used to either kill enemies or open workbenches. It's a way to encourage players to either work around enemies, or at least be creative when they kill. Gameplay-wise, it's more the same from Innocence, but every system feels more robust. It actually feels like a stealth game now. That's partly due to the revamped ammo mechanics, but also to the level design for stealth arenas. They feel more like spaces that encourage open-ended sneaking. There are several ways to get from point A to point B, and while there is still a bit of waiting for guard patrols to line up, they have ways to pull guards away from the paths or to remove them altogether. The gameplay is fine for what it is, but Requiem's story is what got my attention at the end of the day. I'm not kidding when I say that I was all too willing to play the game and laugh at it like I did with Innocence. The early parts of the story feel like the retreading ground from the first game, and there's a repetition of events that occurs in the first few chapters that started to bore me. Hugo needs something, Amicia goes up to find that thing, bad shit happens, and Amicia makes it back home after fighting for her life. It always ends up with either getting assaulted or dealing with rats. It's like an average New Yorker's commute to the city. It's only when Amicia and Hugo get separated from their group that the game starts getting interesting. It feels like it's going to be the same game again, but then a few new characters get introduced, and they're a lot more interesting than the cast in Innocence. There's a recurring theme of children getting talked down and ignored by adults early on. This game has a lot of themes, actually. What I like is that the themes shift, but it never feels like the game is juggling too many balls in the air. Themes get consumed by other themes, and what you originally thought was going to be a game about fighting to protect those you love becomes something different altogether. Unfortunately, those changes don't become evident until the third act of the game. There's a long stretch in the middle where the game just piles on traumatic event after traumatic event, and it turns into pathos during those segments. Those were the parts where I rolled my eyes and laughed when the game was trying to pull at my heartstrings. But then the game pulled the rug out under me, because the final chapters of Requiem turned into a Yoko Taro game. Reality gives way to some nightmare imagery, and Requiem did the exact thing I want games to do. It uses gameplay to reinforce its themes. There are things you do in this nightmare realm that call back to events and set pieces from earlier in the game. By now, you've been conditioned to approach these challenges with a certain method, but you're told that those methods won't work like before, and you need to find a new way. And it's so simple and dumb when you figure out what you need to do, but it's so rewarding to have that aha moment along with Amicia. Never mind the fact that I had just spent 10 minutes doing timing challenges or Crash Bandicoot chase sequences that involved rat tsunamis. I wasn't even laughing at those times like I laughed at the rat tornadoes in the first game, because I was immersed in the setting. I don't know, maybe it's because I knew what I was getting into with Requiem, so I'm not fighting it like I fought with Innocence. The last few chapters went in a direction I couldn't have expected and impressed me with how hard the game was willing to go with its concept. Yeah, rats don't behave this way. Yeah, the plague as we know it isn't the same plague as in this game. We're past that. This game will knock you off your feet, but you gotta be patient and let its story play out. Also, shoutouts to Best Girl here. She had the most relatable reaction once she realized what Hugo could do.
What the hell?
She also has this moment where she chides Amicia and Hugo for succumbing to their baser instincts, and if this was executed poorly, it couldn't have been a "don't you feel bad player for doing what the game told you to do" moment. But it avoids that, because it doesn't feel like the game is talking directly at the player, but instead, the character is talking to the other characters in the story. I'm gushing over the game now, but I had some issues with it early on. There's a moment where you have to find an herbalist, and he's in the custody of 2 guards. As far as I can tell, there is no way to rescue him. Either the guards will kill him, or the rats if you kill a guard, because the guard drops his torch. Another set piece kept crashing my game. If I created too many light sources for the game to manage, it crashed the desktop. I had to redo this entire puzzle again to avoid the situation. Besides those 2 moments, I really don't have any problems with the game. Play A Plague Tale Requiem. It's $50 on Steam. This is the biggest upset for me all year, but I can't say that I hate being disappointed.